granted 1 minute to answer each question. Each candidate has the right to request that I repeat the question. Questions will begin in alphabetical order and will rotate per question. No rebuttals may be made during the Q&A portion, but can be reserved for after during the summation period. Right. Question number 1. We're going to begin with Ferrandino. What is the main objective? What is your main objective once elected?
My one main objective, if I had to pick one, it would be to create a more transparent environment between the board and the community. This way, you're more informed, you understand how decisions have been made, so when you may not agree with a decision, at least you'll understand how it came to be. And if you understand that process, I think collectively we can move on and continue in a positive manner versus harping on the result and not really understanding where it came from. So transparency would be my answer.
Thank you. My main objective would be to immediately go to work to get the apprenticeship door open for students that are walking off the stage not sure if college is for them. I understand there's a process that every child should be offered an opportunity to go to college, but every child is not built for college, whether it be through an economic issue or just the fact that they're not prepared. I want to open a door for the apprenticeship. I want to be able to get them in there. This way they can start building a trade, they can learn while they earn, and hopefully have a focus in regards to where they're going to head the rest of their life.
My main objective would be to address how the children in the high school are being prepared for their path. Basically, whether it's college or a trade, that they start in their first year, their freshman year, and they're followed throughout each year, being provided information and guidance and attention to their own individual path. Right now, I think that's lacking, and I think what we're finding is that juniors and seniors are at a loss of how to approach their future, and I think at this point, at this juncture, I think more guidance is definitely required.
I have to agree with Erin. My focus would definitely be at the curriculum, especially at the high school level. I feel that based on a lot of the youth of Lyndhurst that I've spoken to, there really is this lack of preparation when it comes to thinking about their future. A lot of them are at a loss when it comes to applying for colleges. I feel that there's really no guidance on how to write the college essay, what are the colleges looking for, and I feel that a lot of this is being done really late in the game. Preparation for college or trade school, I think, has to happen the moment they step foot into that high school. There has to be some kind of plan. Look, they don't have to know what it is that they want to do, but they definitely need to know that these are very critical 4 years, and we have to prepare them to be able to compete in not just the local schools. I mean, as great as Montclair University is in Seton Hall, there are schools that I believe many of our students can research.
My objective would be hiring the best teachers for the students and to make sure there's no nepotism and update the curriculum.
Question 2. What is one area where Lyndhurst excels and one area that needs improvement, and why?
I can say that Lyndhurst excels tremendously dealing with especially challenged children. What I've seen this school do is amazing. To watch a blind student walk across the stage and receive a degree was tear-jerking. Where it needs to improve is, again, for that child that walks off the stage and does not know where to go. Opening the doors to apprenticeship will give them a path to be able to find a future.
With regard to a successful thing about Lyndhurst is their music program. I've seen it grow over the years. It's impressive, and it is now being referred to as the pride of Lyndhurst High. Where I think things need to improve, definitely within guidance. Currently, we have a director of guidance who is also the director of special services. It's my belief that those are two separate roles, that a person who's in charge of guidance for the district and also for the special education in the district should be given to two different directors and not shared by one. Both two extremely important roles in our students' future, and I think more emphasis needs to be, more importance and emphasis needs to be placed on that.
I think where Lyndhurst schools excel is definitely, as Erin was saying, in the music program. That is a program that is not available to my son, who attends Sacred Heart School, and it's one that I am very impressed with, as a lot of his friends are part of that music program, and I really do feel it is vital to have music as part of the education program. It's something that I have enjoyed watching his friends do, and again, I feel that that is something that Lyndhurst does right, and it's a very strong program. Where I tend to see that Lyndhurst is lacking is on test scores. Now, as much as I really don't believe in putting emphasis on standardized tests, it is part of what the kids have to take, and eventually for their futures, when they move on to college, they do have to sit for an exam that a big part of where they end up is going to be counted on that test. That said, I think they need to work on comparing how our children are doing when compared to other school districts.
Could you repeat the question again?
Sure. What is one area where Lyndhurst excels and one area that needs to be improved, and why?
Okay, on the Excel part, there is a lot of questions, but what it does need an improvement is the district image, so we could track better applicants of teachers to bring the schools up from a D on the report card. To me, that's more important.
I'm going to have to agree with Patrick. We do excel in the special needs program. Experienced it with my son. He entered it as a 3-year-old. And so that by hands down, that department is a great department. It's run well. As far as improvement, I have to agree with Elaine. Our public image prevents families from moving into the town, prevents good educators from applying for positions. So I think we need to improve the public image of how the school is run.
Any questions for me goes to Keefe. How many Board of Education meetings have you attended?
That's a great question. Actually, off the top of my head, I can't count because I've been to several. I was at the last one last month, so several over the years.
I have to admit, not many, but I have been watching a lot of the board meetings that have been put on YouTube. So, but I have to be honest, I haven't been to many of the meetings in the past.
Well, with me being a grandma, I have attended Board of Ed meetings and town meetings for a long time, from 1980 with the Board of Ed, and I still do attend the meetings. Maybe I missed a few meetings on the Board of Ed recently, but I'm always there and I'm always watching.
Up until very recently, I can honestly say I haven't attended enough meetings, but when I decided to run for the board, I did start attending meetings and got more involved, so.
I've attended no meetings, but I've watched everyone on social media. I've utilized technology, and that's what I'll continue to do if I'm not elected, because unfortunately at this point I'll be out coaching. But if I am elected, I will be here, hopefully, making a change and bringing apprenticeship to our students.
Question 4. Would you please elaborate your plan to enhance or enrich the STEM program in Lyndhurst School District?
The STEM program is a program actually that where my son attends school, they have to put a heavy emphasis on. Everything from, they do a yearly project. His science class is very involved, hands-on, in terms of science and working in, they now have a new laboratory within the school where the students actually go to the lab and perform many activities. One of the things that I enjoy actually about that program is I feel that science isn't rushed. They take their time and they really learn the concepts so that it's not just from a book. It's very hands-on. They also have something called Block School where they use Legos to build robotics and a lot of things like that. So I actually heavily believe in that program, and I will work really hard for the schools to actually mirror that program.
Did you repeat that?
Would you please elaborate your plan to enhance or enrich the STEM program in Lyndhurst?
Okay, first of all, to enhance a program, you have to work through your superintendent, because we're not really educators, so we would have to take the recommendations of the superintendent and the supervisors of the schools to enhance on what the students really need to do and what to know and what they need for graduation and etc. So we as lay people cannot do educational things. It has to come from your superintendent.
Once we get the superintendent on board to enhance it, I think the best way to do it is to really look at it as a financial decision where we need to allocate more funds toward it to grow the program. But like Elaine said, it really is going to come down to working with the superintendent and the rest of the board members and the business manager to make that happen.
The world is becoming very complex, and we would need to present to the board in regards to the other members and the superintendent to advance our computer science courses from pre-K to 12 and hoping to advance in programming and coding.
So a couple of years ago, the schools started with the 3rd grade, and the 3rd grade would go to a STEM lab every marking period. That was 3 years ago they started that, and then they also now have increased it to kindergarten through 4th grade, if not 5th grade, going each marking period to a STEM lab, which is in Maywood. So things have improved in the STEM area. Of course, it could get better. Where it's weak currently right now, I think, is mainly in the 6th to 8th grade, where there could be much more hands-on sort of experiments. And I do think we're lacking, but I think also that we've improved over the years, just with regard to putting the emphasis on STEM for the younger kids, but also the technology ratio of, an appliance to students. So we're progressing. It would be wonderful if it would move faster, and if there were funds to have that. Hopefully the referendum and my time.
Say it loud.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. It's a little low when you say
Sorry.
it.
With digital automation on the rise, what will you do to better equip our children to be better prepared for new age AI and robotics competing for jobs?
Yeah. Well, I think you're talking like about IT and stuff, and I think like the books could be digital. There's a lot of other things you do to upgrade, because today the world is done with computers, and everybody has to know IT, and they have to know how to do Excel sheets. They have to know all kinds of things in order for them to that. And if you do it in an earlier grade, I don't know which grade they're starting that, is something that is definitely going to be needed, because the whole thing about school is to prepare these children when they get out of high school, that they're able to get a job or attend a college of their choice.
Can you repeat that question for me, please?
With digital automation on the rise, what will you do to better equip our children to be better prepared for this new age of AI and robotics competing for jobs?
Well, again, working with the superintendent to create the curriculum, we need to start implementing these ideas earlier on, so it becomes second nature to them by the time they reach high school and when they get into their careers. So it's working closely with the superintendent and the other board members to make it a part of the curriculum and introduce it early.
It's an interesting question, especially when you think about manufacturing. When you think about manufacturing, you think about warehousing, high-lows and so forth, but it's changed today. Everything is robotics, everything is in coding. This all ties back to computer science. We must advance our computer science courses. From pre-K to all the way to 12th grade, we must be able to give this availability for our students to be able to understand programming, coding, and all sorts of type of computer science technology. We must advance them for that move into the real world.
So, as I mentioned before, the ratio of technology to student has increased in our schools, but however, the classes that they're currently taking do not address any sort of robotics, coding, or anything. Basically, it's typing and learning how to work on the computer with regard to, let's just say, office windows. Right now, I mean, a lot of the concerns would be space, where a maker space for a robotics program would be wonderful. I do know that the past 2 years, there's been a robotics club after school available to the upperclassmen in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I think. So it's there, it's a seed, it needs to definitely grow, and hopefully if we get a referendum, get a school with a referendum, that was one of the things they talked about, was having that space for children to create and to explore and to have access to the technology.
Look, this all goes back to the fact that preparation and being able, our students to be able to compete in the real world. It is an area, I believe, that is lacking, and that we do need to get going on getting some programs in-house for our students to advance. The disadvantage you will see will come in the time with the kids that are not getting this in high school, and they start applying to colleges. Some of the more competitive colleges, the students that actually attend those universities, they have that experience. So I think it is important if our students are going to be able to compete in the real world.
How can Lyndhurst become more competitive with standardized testing scores?
Right now, the standardized testing score is a big benchmark or measuring stick on how the district does look. And it's kind of it's a tough call because from talking to parents, there's a lot of negativity surrounding the standardized testing. You know, we're teaching our kids to take a test versus teaching them to well-rounded education. Unfortunately, it is the measuring stick, and in order to move the district to better the grade of the district, we do have to focus a little more on that. But again, it's a fine line because, like I said, I don't want my children to be taught how to take a test. I want them to be taught how to think independently and learn through natural thinking.
The hot topic item on standardized testing has been a centerpiece for a while. Again, tying us back into the STEM program. We need to make sure that we're giving our kids the best opportunity to get the education that they need to move on to the real world. Some of these standardized tests are biased in some sense. We have to make sure that we're providing the necessary class sizes and giving the ample time for the teachers to teach these curriculums to be able to give our students the ability to learn and take these tests. In doing so, by applying the STEM program, we can offer an opportunity for our kids to advance into technology and get ready to move into the real world.
So standardized testing is not going anywhere. I think we've done 3 years of PARC so far. So within that 3 years, we're gaining more momentum of being able to understand how to track the children's progress. So after doing 3 years, there has been an improvement, and then now they can also have the data to pinpoint on where and what subjects, or even, what unit system can be improved. I think it's a matter of receiving the data from the standardized tests and the teachers and the administration speaking together about how to approach those weak areas.
Standardized tests aren't really going anywhere. I don't necessarily believe in them 100%. Where my son goes to school, they take the Terranova test, and one of the things that I actually enjoy about that is they don't teach to the test. It seems like it's just a test that they take in March, and that's it. But they're not teaching to that test. What do they do with the scores? They send it to the parents, we look at them, and we move on. That said, we do, because it's not going away, we do have to prepare our children on dealing with some of the anxieties around test taking. Whether it's giving them practice tests at home, talking them through it. But again, it's one of those topics where I feel that it's not going away, but unfortunately it's something that is necessary, and we do have to prepare our students to be able to handle those challenges.
Standardized test is demanded by the state, and that they shouldn't be teaching them to the test, because they need to teach a well-rounded education. But my pet peeve for years has been the SAT scores. And with the SAT scores, Lyndhurst doesn't do very well. It seems that in all the years that I watched, when I was on the school board, I remember going up 50 points and then they dropped. But the SATs have never come up above state average, except for your very smart children that are in the school system. But your average kid is not going above the state average for SATs. And that's been my pet peeve for so many years, because I don't care what people say, they still, when you go to college, the SATs is how you get into college. Unless you teach them and you have those other programs to help them, your child is not getting into college of his choice.
What is your game plan for an anti-bullying program or campaign?
We need to be careful about anti-bullying, because the child that's being bullied loses its self-respect. We need to be able to focus back in and gaining the self-respect back to the child that's being bullied. There's a big issue with that in regards to the person who's actually doing the bullying, and we need to be more involved in educating the parents making sure we have safeguards on social media. We have to make sure that we're being aggressive in regards to entertaining the fact that some of this stuff happens where the parents are not aware of it. So we have to keep them informed. But the child themselves is going through a social depression in regards to being bullied. We have to make sure that we hope and raise their motivation levels back up so they can, in the old days, handle themselves.
This is something that we've spoken about at our PTA meetings, and I think a lot of it is, what we spoke about doing is basically informing parents and having a seminar with regard to what exactly HIV is, what constitutes bullying, what constitutes harassment, what constitutes a kid just being a jerk. But I think mostly it's also giving the parents the information on how to handle the social media, which seems to have brought a whole wave of new issues. So I think part of the puzzle of it, and I don't have the full answer on it, is informing the parents to understand what the procedure is and what constitutes filing the HIV and how to manage their children's social media and keep it out of school.
This is an area where I feel that the teachers and the people that work in the schools really need to be trained at observing and identifying the issues. My children go to school all day. Sometimes they come home, kids are afraid to tell their parents anything. Afraid because as a parent, most of us are going to run to the school, complain to the principal, and they feel that the situation is going to be much worse for them. This is where I feel teachers and the other individuals that work out in the school, like the guidance counselor, need to be a little bit more open, observant, to identifying the issues and bringing the parent into it and trying to resolve it before things get worse. I mean, we read the news every day. We see that, these types of bullying, kids are killing themselves, the suicide rates are going up, and a lot of times, again, as a parent, we're not there to see what the real issues are, and our children are sometimes afraid to bring those issues home.
Talking about an anti-bullying program. You want to read the question again, just to make sure?
What is your game plan for an anti-bullying program or campaign?
Okay, this is a really good question because of a lot of bullying that is going in school. Because it's funny that a parent reached out to me about a year ago that the kid was being bullied in the school system for over a year. I read the policy. The school district does have the policy in place about bullying. Your problem is that they are enforcing it to the superintendent and to the board members. But then when I found out that it was going on is because the person was a political person that was doing the bullying. And there's where your problems come in, because everybody should be treated equally, and bullying should not be going in. The teachers should be following the policies. That's why the Board of Ed members create policies and regulations to avoid the situation. If your superintendent's not enforcing it and you're not dealing with it, then there's an accountability problem here, and that's when the school board should be taking actions.
With social media, bullying takes on a new look than what we're used to when we were kids. When we were kids, the bully, at the end of the day, you went home, and you didn't have to deal with them anymore. Now, they're in your kids' pockets. They're with them all day, all night on social media. So it's a different type, and we need 100% to combat it. It has to start at home with the parents, educating them on the different platforms of social media, what the kids are using, how it's being used, help them recognize the signs that their kids are going through something. But it really has to be educating the parent and starting from home to really put an end to it.